My name is Donna Jackson. I'm the Director of Membership Development for Project 21. We are the Black Leadership Network, one of the oldest and largest Black conservative think tanks in the country. I have the privilege of working with some of the most dynamic individuals that you've ever seen. These people have signed up for the fight. You know, somebody asked today, and I've heard it twice, what does winning look like? Well, one of the things I like to study is generals, military generals. And think of us as the Tuskegee Airmen. We come in and we're here to fight the battle. When the Union Army was looking for someone to come up and help them fight, they called the black soldiers. Here we are. So recently we've heard a lot. Recently I had the opportunity to testify before the Energy and Commerce Committee, twice actually in January. First was a affordable energy roundtable with all of the Republican members of the Energy and Commerce Committee. And the second one was their first hearing. And the reason why that was so important is because you hear a lot from climate change activists. You hear a lot from politicians that are all benefiting from environmental justice grants, but you don't hear from the individuals that are impacted in the community. If you went to an African-American community and asked them, what's the priority for your community? None of them would say climate change, not one. Despite the fact that you're hearing people talk about environmental justice. I'll tell you what environmental justice is. It's the black exploitation game. That's how you blackmail every American to fall in line and self-censor and not check on where's the money going. In the Inflation Reduction Act, there was some $60 billion advocated for environmental justice. I want you to realize what that equates to. That is equivalent to the market capitalization of Ford Motor Company International that employs over 200,000 employees, not including the countless indirect jobs from small businesses and vendors. And guess how much money is actually going to go into the black community? They'll get a few retrofittings and windows. And for somebody to sit there and say that somehow environmental justice is dirty air, I'll tell you what the biggest injustice is for black communities. It's poverty. But climate change activists have no problem creating environmental policies that create more of it. If you ask African Americans what is the number one civil rights agenda for the black community, is home ownership. But guess what environmental policies do? They create artificial scarcity by adding additional regulation costs by preventing the development of housing. So who's the enemy here? Now, if you ask me, how do we fight the game? Get African Americans and let them know how these environmental policies are affecting them personally. Black families have the lowest home ownership rates. 70% of black households are run by single parents, mostly females, but guess what? The largest demographic of individuals trying to start their own business is black women. But what do environmentalists do? They create regulations that penalizes small business owners. The Small Business Administration did a study, and what they said is this: small businesses pay 4 times their revenue towards regulations, including climate change policies, than big businesses. Every time they create a climate change policy, it favors big businesses and it squashes small businesses. The war on stoves. What do you think small business, the number one business force black Americans are? Restaurants. Can they afford to buy expensive appliances and convert their homes and their businesses to be able to meet these regulations? No. The whole goal is to put them out of business and create a permanently government-dependent underclass. These environmental policies are a way to usher in socialism, to take away the ingenuity of African Americans who want to participate in this great American dream. High energy costs create barriers for those trying to get out of low income and emerge into the middle class by increasing the cost of energy, increasing the cost of living expenses so that people don't have money to be able to save. The energy industry represents high-paying gateway blue-collar jobs for people that don't have a college education. Even the Washington Post, as woke as they are, said that green jobs that Biden claims is going to replace these jobs, right, only will feel 20% of the coal jobs lost. So now, all of a sudden, and this is a horrible statistic, in California, in 2009, 52% of people could afford an entry-level medium home, not anything lavish, just a medium level. That number is 26%. For Black Americans, 8%. 92% of the population cannot afford an entry-level middle-class home. When you hear people talk about the wealth gap, and you hear it a lot with African Americans, they're always saying that we want to narrow the wealth gap. How do you do that? Through home ownership. Who's preventing you from doing this? Rich, white, elite liberals that have created agenda for Black Americans that they didn't ask for. And they put justice behind it to actually push that narrative. Every person in this room, if you want to make an argument, make it hit home. Because African Americans can turn the tide of any election, any momentum, and all of the ESG that we see going on today. One protest before the 2020 election turned the whole government. I mean, we were living in the golden years when the Trump administration had energy independence. Who do you think got laid off from those jobs? They were Black and brown people. We had the highest home ownership rates. We actually had the highest entrepreneurs that started their own business during the Trump era. Today, all of that is gone with the Biden's attack on the Black community using climate change as the mechanism. What we need to do is let people know how this bogus junk science is being used to take away their livelihood. There was an interesting study with the Energy Information Administration. They said 1 in 3 households struggled to pay their energy bills. 1 in 5 had to give up food and medicine to pay their energy bills. That number, I want you to get this, double for minority communities, double. So you have people that are sitting there making life and death choices because we have an administration who has attacked the fossil fuel industry, who doesn't care about individuals. He decided that Black Americans, despite using for a prop, are expendable. Black people are not, because of high energy bills, are not living paycheck to paycheck. You hear it all the time. They're living paycheck to Wednesday, and then they're borrowing money, and they're trying to get money from their families. They're living upside down just to make it to the next paycheck. So they're already behind. Explain and show people that in the name of bogus science, this is what they're doing to your life. You want an army? You get one. You get one or two leaders that are sitting there and saying, why can't we make it out of poverty? And you show them the connection between climate change policies that creates a slow growth economy that is actually demonizing industrial jobs that was responsible for creating a vibrant middle class, Black middle class in this country. It was Ford Motor Company, it was General Motors, it was all of these industries that created a Black middle class. And now what they're doing is deindustrializing the country, and who's losing the jobs? We are. Let them know who's doing that. And I can tell you right now, you'll have somebody on your side. Now, I guess there's some more I can say, but this is an opportunity for you to ask a Black person, a Black woman who is an evangelical Christian who says to you, don't filter your question, because it's important that you realize that we're in this fight together. And there are a lot of people, I get calls all the time, who are saying, help us. Home ownership is the new Black. And make sure that you get that message out to everybody so that where we are today, we can turn the tides, and we got 2 years to do it. And we can do it together if we message correctly. Thank you.